watching the Ultimate Guide to NPS series, you'll already have learned lots about how and why to create an NPS program in your organisation. In particular, we've looked in depth at categorisation of NPS feedback that puts respondents into one of three camps: promoters, passives, or detractors, and how you can analyse and act upon this data as well as interact with respondents themselves. In this short session, we're going to look at the two main strategic goals for dealing with detractors and how to go about achieving them. NPS detractors are a threat to your organisation. Even the best performing companies will have some customers who not only won't recommend them, but will actively recommend others to go elsewhere. The ultimate strategic goal with NPS detractors is to convert them into NPS promoters. That's quite an ask, however. Not impossible by any means, but this is the classic zero to hero turnaround we're talking about here. Is it reasonable to expect you have the power to convert a customer who actively dislikes you into a vocal advocate? What you're up against is time. It seems a tall order unless you're looking at relatively long timescales, in which case, converting NPS detractors into NPS promoters is both laudable and achievable. However, a more realistic short to medium-term goal is to turn NPS detractors into NPS passives. Think of it as a journey you need to take customers on. To get from detractor territory to promoter territory, customers have to pass through what is known as the zone of tolerance. The zone of tolerance is more or less where all the passives live. The author, Leonard Berry, came up with the zone of tolerance concept. His idea was that the extremes of negative and positive customer experience can be defined like that because they are memorable. So, when customers rate you high or low on NPS, it's because their memory is triggering something positive or negative that they can easily recall. The gap between these two extremes is the zone of tolerance. It's where customers are neutral because they can't remember anything consequential about their experience. Customers within the zone of tolerance aren't necessarily happy or unhappy. In this way, they are classic NPS passives. People who score 7 or 8 on the NPS scale. Some will be happy, just not quite happy enough for things to be memorable. Likewise, others will be unhappy with their experience being somewhat underwhelming or barely adequate, but still tolerating it. As we've established, the journey of going from detractor to promoter could take a long time. In this model, getting NPS detractors to become NPS promoters means taking them from memorably bad experiences to memorably good ones. That's a big jump. A far better strategy is to neutralize them, at least in the first instance. In other words, you want to consciously try and nudge NPS detractors into the zone of tolerance by making their negativity forgettable. Why? Because NPS detractors are so damaging, you want to stop them being damaging as soon as possible. Having them view you as forgettably adequate doesn't sound like much of an objective, but it is more realistic than going straight to being unforgettably amazing. Here's a couple of things you can do to make that change happen. The first is finding what all your NPS detractors have in common in terms of their reasons for giving low NPS scores. These reasons should lead you to relatively minor changes in process and engagement that remove friction and irritation. It won't make them wonder at how great your company is, but it might alleviate their issues enough to turn them passive the next time that you invite them to score you. The second is to close the loop on individual NPS detractors that starts with negative feedback that they give you. Closing the loop means bringing an individual feedback interaction to a conclusion with acknowledgement and action. This has the effect of making a difference at an individual level. The bonus is that doing this regularly, you get through a lot of detractors, and the changes you implement benefit others and avoid problems that trigger low NPS scores. That's detractors covered. What about strategies for passives and promoters? Well, that's the subject of the next session in our series. We hope to see you there.